This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Ron Rohde, Kentucky Afield's first host back in 1953. Now, I'm proud to present Charlie Baglin.
We all get sick, but just as often, we all get well. But some ailments aren't that simple. We go inside outdoors with a group called Real Recovery. They use fishing to help men with cancer gain peace of mind. And we'll tell you about their upcoming event at Otter Creek. Plus, meet the man who takes part of the money you spend on bullets, boats, and fishing gear and uses it to help make the outdoors outstanding for you and me. A wildlife and sportfish restoration program. Next on Kentucky Afield Radio.
Deer in the headlights. Watch out, Mr. Deer.
Singing with your kids in the car is one way to keep deer hazard season in mind. And should a deer catch your headlights, flash those lights, sound your horn, break its concentration to scurry it along.
There's one.
And where there's one, there may be 2 or 3 more. Deer hazard season runs through November, so be wise behind the wheel while nature runs its course. A message from Fish and Wildlife and the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety.
Uncle Chuck, what is fall?
Fall means football, but excitement doesn't end there. This is when Kentucky's outdoors are just getting started. The Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife reminds you lakes and streams are alive with fall fishing. And for many, the biggest game of the season is white-tailed deer. Get your fishing and hunting license and get your game plan together. This fall, take aim on a winning season at fw.ky.gov. It is said that health is the great equalizer. If you have a yacht and a chateau on Sunset Strip, but you don't have your health to enjoy it, then what do you have? Who's better off, you or a common person, a poorer person that is in excellent health? Even with medical science as we have today, some diseases are still the kiss of death, along with the endless doctor visits, surgeries, chemotherapy, physical therapy, medicines. The very stress of having the disease only makes it worse. That's why healthcare professionals suggest relax, read, let your mind unwind, decompress. Your body is in knots, you're full of stress and tension. To release some of that. It can aid immeasurably in your recovery. We go inside outdoors with a group that is using fishing to cope with cancer. The name is Real Recovery, or EEL, just like a fishing reel. Pete Campisi and Ruby Gordon, welcome to you both. Real Recovery. I am looking at your website, and it says Real Recovery is a national nonprofit organization that conducts free fly fishing retreats for men recovering from all forms of cancer. How did this get started and when?
Well, it was started in 2003 by a national group of avid fly fishers who were inspired by one of their fishing buddies' ongoing battle with brain cancer. And they witnessed firsthand the beneficial impact that fly fishing provided for their friend. And the group decided to create Real Recovery to provide the same opportunity for other men battling the disease. We got involved in 2005, Kentucky, Indiana, and we asked Real Recovery if we could start a retreat for residents in the Kentucky, Indiana area.
Let's say that's great if you were in Louisville, Kentucky, or Evansville, Indiana, or Owensboro. But as for folks, say, in Pikeville, Kentucky, or Paducah, or Bowling Green, and it's a little farther of a drive, is your program still open to them? And describe what is it you do that makes it worth getting in the car and taking a little trip.
Well, the national organization is working in 15 different states. We will take anybody from anywhere. Most of our people do come from Indiana and Kentucky, but last year we had a man come from Texas. Real Recovery is a support group as well as fly fishing. The men make friends very quickly and tend to really love the experience. And we take both men who like to fish as well as some that have never fished before. people like Pete, our wonderful volunteers, come out and work one-on-one with them and help them through the fishing process, as well as they're very good listeners and help the people to express some of the feelings they're going through.
From my experience as one of your volunteer fishing buddies, yes, it is a support group for men with cancer or survivors, however you will look at it. But it is men outdoors, not inside a hospital or clinic. They're outside fishing with a new friend. They're at the water's edge. It is just an outstanding event for, not only the men with cancer, the survivors, but for the fishing buddies like myself that were just so moved. My dad passed away from cancer. I wanted to give back, do something, and get involved. It's been such a rewarding thing for me, but basically, in a nutshell, Charlie, it's outside, with a new buddy, and you're talking about anything and everything. The fish fighting, or you could be talking about your throat cancer and how you're working through, getting your voice back. It's just so rewarding and fulfilling for everybody.
Pete, did you survive cancer yourself?
Yes, I am a survivor. I've had prostate cancer, and I am a survivor.
My daddy died when I was 5 years old. I hardly knew the man. I have a few vague memories. But so far, I've been fortunate and have not come in contact with cancer other than, I'm guessing it was 1965 or 66. So I understand a little bit myself. To get through the ordeal and the diagnosis and the treatment for cancer is to know that you're not in this alone. And that's what real recovery seems to me, is to bring folks together that know exactly what you're going through.
Oh, boy. Charlie, you have hit it right on the head. In the group, Ruby, we generally do, 12 to 14 survivors?
Yes, we take up to 14 men at a retreat. So it's small, and therefore they bond together very quickly.
And these men, Charlie, will... Well, for example, Ruby mentioned the gentleman from Texas who I fished with. He was probably terminal. He could hardly walk the bank of the lake, out of breath, but what a great spirit he had. And then you have other guys that, have been longtime survivors. They're all in this group. So not only do they get information from the clinical person that conducts some of these sessions, but they get it from other men with cancer that have had it for years and survived for years. So, Charlie, you hit it right in the head.
We work with the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife, and we work with biologists, and that is very much a science. If you do A, you get B. It seems to me, if I were a germ, if I were a disease, I don't care if the person I have affected is in a good mood or a bad mood. The disease is going to do what the disease is going to do. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm looking here. I know that you have courageous conversations, and that's in quotes, as part of your retreats. You have motivational talks. I'm wondering, does the word hope, does state of mind, does positive energy affect the outcome of cancer and the treatment?
I think it does.
I wonder how the cancer knows that you have hope and belief that you're going to conquer this. But I don't know. It's one of those things maybe you can't explain. But I know that that is central to what real recovery does over your event weekends.
It certainly is central. And being around people who have gone through what you're going through and just talking to them, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah, and the spirit of the survivor or man with cancer. There's medical history all across this beautiful world of ours that, why did this person survive this or that disease? And sometimes there may be some medical explanation. Other times it's just, a spirit within that person that overcomes the germ or the cancer in this case. And to watch these men, Charlie, catch a fish, a lot of them have either given up or thought they would never be outside doing activities again, and maybe their family can't help them along those lines. But here we have a real recovery group that provides all the equipment. These guys show up to Woody Glen up here in Henryville, Indiana. They get in a beautiful hotel room. It's actually a retreat center. And they spend some time chatting, getting to know each other, and then we'll tie flies with them. We'll sit around the fireplace and tie flies. Then we go fishing, and they get to meet somebody new like myself, a fishing buddy. And it's just the look in their eye, the feel, the aura that it creates for these folks. It's very moving.
We are talking to Pete Campese and Ruby Gordon with Real Recovery. Real as in fishing reel, a group that helps men dealing with cancer to find hope and strength through camaraderie and the joy of fishing. We'll have more in a moment. My name is Charlie Baglan. Stay tuned. This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Charlie Baglan, my home address for the rest of the hour. We are talking about a group called Real Recovery, REEL, as in fishing reel. They help men which are touched by cancer. One Fly for Cancer is the name of the event. It's upcoming at Otter Creek Outdoor Recreation Area near Fort Knox. With me on the phone are Ruby Gordon and Pete Campese. Pete, you are in Henryville, Indiana. Your fair city was hit hard by tornadoes. How's the recovery going in that respect?
Oh, going very good. I can speak personally. I'm sitting in a room looking at the Clark State Forest out the window of this former bedroom, now office, and this room was demolished. The wall was missing. We almost lost the house, but the tornado only took down a quarter of it. But to speak of the city in general, the high school, I'm sure you remember seeing the video and the pictures
yes.
of the high school that was demolished. They were in school. That happened on March the 2nd. They were in school on August with a completely rebuilt, brand new school. The homes along the tornado path are, either new. There's a couple that had insurance issues that, out in the country that maybe, haven't had attention yet. But basically speaking, Charlie, it's a great story of determination and survival.
My friend Charlie Logsdon, who is the manager at Otter Creek, called me and he said, Charlie, could you have the folks from Real Recovery on to talk about an event? How are you connected to Otter Creek?
We just contacted Otter Creek to see if it was possible to have the event there. And Charlie Logsdon has been very helpful. It is planned for November 23rd. That's a Saturday. People would register, get the rules around 8 a.m., and fishing's going to be from 9 to 1 p.m.
So this is another of your 2.5-day events?
This is a fundraiser for Real Recovery because the men who come to the retreat are absolutely charged nothing. It's totally free. But we have to come up with the money in order to have the retreat. And this is one way that we are going to try this year to come up with some money in order to have our 2014 retreat.
So this could be anyone who wants to lend a hand.
Yeah, anyone who would like to come, and we hope it's going to be a fun event. And we're going to be doing registration and the rules starting at 8 a.m., at Otter Creek Outdoor Recreation Area. The fishing will be from 9 to 1. They will be divided into teams just by a blind draw. And the team catching the most trout will win a plaque. And there's going to be door prizes awarded throughout in random drawings. The pre-registration, if people register to do this prior to the event, is going to be $40. And it will be $50 at the event.
So if you wanted to register in advance, is that done through the web?
Yes. To register online, you would go to REEL Recovery, realrecovery.org, ORG/how-to-help/donate, and complete the billing information. We are doing a reduced price for past Real Recovery participants of $20 at pre-registration or $30 at the event. And the entry fee includes one fly, coffee, donuts, and lunch. It does not include the $3 park entry fee, and we will be selling additional mulligan flies for $5 each.
Recap, when again is this event at Otter Creek? November when?
November 23rd. In the event that there's bad weather and we cannot do it on that day, we hope we can, but our backup date would be December 7th.
Bad weather meaning the creek is blown out and dangerous, because this will involve wading the creek with waders and fly fishing. So if the creek's blown out, we do have a backup date of December the 7th. Whether, if it's raining, we're still going to do this thing, Charlie.
Well, Ruby and Pete, you have a wonderful organization helping out a lot of people touched by cancer, and my hat's off to you.
Right. I've also been touched by cancer. My mother died from cancer. I've had cancer twice, and my husband died from cancer. So that's why I'm involved in coordinating this program. And, I usually go out for the final luncheon, and I go out for the final luncheon and talk with the men who have been there, and I have not heard any complaints from any of the participants, and we've been doing one retreat a year since 2005.
It means a lot to a lot of people. Ruby, Pete, thanks.
Thank you.
RealRecovery.org is the web address. All the details are there for One Fly for Cancer. You'll find it under the News and Upcoming Events tab. Well, I think I hit the wrong button. Standing by, if I haven't lost him, Charlie Logson, who is the manager at Otter Creek. Charlie, you there?
Yes.
We just hung up the phone with Ruby and Pete from Real Recovery, and they are having a pretty nice outing, a fundraiser coming up at your area here in just a couple of weeks. So you're looking forward to that. Is this your first association with Real Recovery?
Yes, it is, but I believe we need to remember how important fishing, outdoor activities are to giving people peace of mind. Sometimes in today's society and in today's sporting community, all we talk about is the big buck, the big fish, but we seem to have forgotten that just a good day outdoors, hunting or fishing, allows you to contemplate, slow down, and appreciate life.
Absolutely. Get rid of some of the stress and tension in your life. You talk about a tension headache. I can imagine tension cancer.
Right.
I mean, anything you can do to help treatment, to help you recover, you should do that. And I think this fishing opportunity that Real Recovery is going to provide there at Otter Creek, the fundraiser, is well worth attending.
Oh, yeah. These are the types of events that a lot of people don't recognize sportsmen for. Sportsmen do lots of events to help the community, to help individuals, not just with cancer. Well, on the cancer point of view, you have Real Recovery, you have Casting for Recovery, which is a program for women with breast cancer. The local QDMA chapter from Louisville just recently had a youth hunt event for military children of deployed personnel or wounded warrior personnel. Sportsmen do lots of things like this.
Tell me what's going on down there that's keeping you busy.
We're entering into the catch and release season for trout on the creek, and this year we are stocking 7,500 fish, 1,250 at a time, but we have entered into an agreement with Trout Unlimited from Louisville and the Derby City Fly Fishers, and that they're going to provide approximately 150 fish per stocking of large fish, which for two stockings, that would be 300 fish total, and these fish will go up to 20 inches long. We expect it to be quite a draw for the area. We've had lots of people call in about it. We do now have 4 cabins with electricity and heat in the campground that's Sleep 14. Has a refrigerator. They're very close to a winterized bathhouse, and it would be an ideal situation for a fishing club, a fly fishing club, church, or youth group. They come down, spend the weekend, and fish for large fish and lots of fish. The best hiking of the year, in my opinion, is just about to start. When the leaves come off, you can walk along the bluff and you can see the eagles that nest across the river. You can see migrating waterfowl Last week, I saw the first group of cranes come over, sandhill cranes. Some of them seem to key on the mouth of Otter Creek and then come right over the office. And you can see thousands in a day.
You have a vista there. You can look out over a clearing and see the Ohio River, southern Indiana, and it's just breathtaking.
Yes, it's the best view of the river probably for tens, if not hundreds of miles on either side of that conference center, that old conference center. But, yes, that's the most breathtaking view of the river anywhere.
Chuck, even though we're looking ahead to late fall and winter, Otter Creek is open.
Yeah, I believe that's the best time of the year. You can hike without getting unbearably hot. You see lots of things as far as wildlife, photo opportunities. The stream is incredibly picturesque. A lot of the fly fishers that come up here compare it to the streams of North Carolina. What are your hours there and the days of the week you're open? We're open from daylight to dark, Wednesday through Sunday. We are closed on Mondays and Tuesdays unless it's one of the big holidays of 4th of July, Labor Day, or Memorial Day. Okay, Charlie Logston, manager there at Otter Creek. Thanks, and keep up the good work. Thanks, Charlie. Check it out. It truly is a showcase of the great outdoors and wildlife, and it just keeps getting better. Google Otter Creek Recreation Area. Our fishing report is just ahead, and something maybe you didn't know about the business of the outdoors. This is Charlie Baglin, and you're listening to Kentucky Afield Radio. This is Kentucky Afield Radio. My name is Charlie Baglin, and any show that you may have missed or you would like to hear again, you can. Go first, and I always mention this first because I like this website, myhuntingandfishing.com. Spell it out, myhuntingandfishing.com. You'll find us there. If you like podcasts, you can find us on iTunes. Make sure you click on the podcast button rather than music or movies. We're not there. But under podcasts, we are. And our YouTube channel. Just type in Kentucky Afield Radio in the search box, and there we are. Making the nation a better place for wildlife and how Kentucky plays into it. That is next after the fishing report.
This is Rob Rold in the Northwestern Fishery District with some fishing opportunities in our area. Crappie angling is picking up across the district, both at Rough River Lake and Nolin River Lake especially. The crappie in the upper ends of the lake are shallow, especially when the water's muddy or on cloudier days, or in the clearer water and more sunny days, fish can be all the way down to 16 and 18 feet deep. Largemouth bass activity has also picked up within the last week or two. Don't be too shy about fishing for largemouth this time of year. Crankbaits move at a pretty good pace, have a tendency to trigger strikes. Anglers are catching several crappie at Malizay Lake, as well as many of the pits on Peabody WMA in Ohio and Muhlenberg County. Please remember, be safe on the water, especially wear your PFDs as the water temperature cools off. It doesn't take long for hypothermia to set in.
This is Jeff Crosby with the Central District Fishing Report. Lake temperatures are running in the mid to upper 50s. Largemouth fishing is very good at many of the area lakes, especially on lakes that have shad. They're feeding on them very heavily this time of year. Creek arms are very productive. Casting crankbaits or lipless crankbaits, especially off secondary points, pig and jig or creature baits are also very good when fished along shoreline cover. Additionally, good catches of crappie are being taken at Taylorsville and Harrington. Standing timber or brush piles adjacent to deep water have been very productive. Fish live minnows or crappie jigs to catch a few of these fish. Don't forget about the fins program. Many of the fins lakes have been stocked with trout this past week or will be this next week. So grab a pole, and I hope to see you on the water.
In western Kentucky, on Kentucky Barkley Lakes, crappie fishing is picking up, spider rigging out on the ledges, dangling some jigs or minnows over top of the brush piles in deeper water seems to be pretty productive right now if you can find you a good calm day. Bass fishermen still taking a lot of bass up off the banks. Bass seem to be up on the banks chasing the shad minnows, but still the better bass are out deeper off the ledges. Good time to throw that Alabama rig if you like to use that, or a deep diving crankbait or a worm or jig, something out there that you can fish those deeper ledges with, those bigger bass. Still below the dams, good on stripers and catfish. The lake level is at winter pool, so you need to be careful if you're cruising around on the lake. Those shallow spots, a lot of stumps out there that could be hit. Well, this is Paul Reister, and hope you find a good day to go fishing.
Kentucky Afield Radio, Bagland back, and do you think the economy is wild? Try the economics of wildlife. We will explain after the break.
Deer in the headlights. Watch out, Mr. Deer.
Singing with your kids in the car is one way to keep deer hazard season in mind. And should a deer catch your headlights, flash those lights, sound your horn, break its concentration to scurry it along.
There's one.
And where there's one, there may be 2 or 3 more. Deer hazard season runs through November. So be wise behind the wheel while nature runs its course. A message from Fish and Wildlife and the Kentucky Office of Highway Safety.
Kentucky Afield Radio. You know, some days we just seem to run in circles. We meet ourselves coming and going. We're beside ourselves. I think that's where the phrase comes from. Maybe that's not all a bad thing, because one event can lead to another, and in many ways it can pick up some steam along the way. That's an analogy that's often made about nature, the circle of nature, circle of life. I've heard some say that's kind of the way nature also is funded. But what do you mean funded? Nature is nature. It doesn't need funding. It does what it does, and it always has since the dawn of time. True, but I would amend that last line to say, since not so much the dawn of time, but from the dawn, at least, of people in mass numbers. Even in this country, we had the Native Americans, not as plentiful as the population of the United States today, but they were certainly out there, had their impact on the land and its wildlife. Then along comes a landing at Plymouth Rock, and next thing you know, there's westward expansion, and people are clearing forests and building cities, and we're making dams on rivers, and we're altering the flow of our streams, and market hunting for wildlife. But all this was done just as if wild land and wildlife were limitless. But back to this cycle of money. There is a flow of money that goes around in circles too, and it helps wildlife. It helps wild land. It helps people like you and me. It helps deer and rabbits. It helps bald eagles and birds. It helps anyone who likes to participate in nature recreation. It is a big world out there, and nature is big business. Departments of Fish and Wildlife, such as Kentucky's, wouldn't exist today as we know them if this other fund wasn't in place. I mean, budgets are tight. Dollars are few. Sort of like the perfect fishing hole. There just ain't enough of them to go around. And this other flow of money has been around since 1937, so for the very vast majority, we have just accepted this as commonplace. You and I are part of this system, know it or not, as anglers, as hunters, as boaters. We enjoy these pastimes. And to participate in them, well, you got to have the stuff to do it. You need equipment. You may need a gun, shotgun, boat, gasoline, shells, bows. And knowing this, there are companies out there that manufacture what we need. And before we even spend a penny on any of the stuff we need and want, these companies that produce the items pay a federal tax on it. It's called an excise fee, federal excise tax. I'm sure you've heard it. The manufacturers will get their money back when folks like you and me go out and buy the stuff, and it's all built into the price, and it's a price that the market will willingly bear, a price you and I are more than willing to pay. But remember, this is part of a cycle. The United States Fish and Wildlife Service collects all this money from all over the nation and is put into a huge fund. Then, based on a formula, and I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I'm told that it's based on land mass in your state and the number of people who hold hunting and fishing licenses, that are sold in the state, better determines how the money is equitably allocated, apportioned back to the states for wildlife conservation. So in Kentucky, the Department of Fish and Wildlife here gets the money for such things like boat ramps. They use it to buy land. If there's a big chunk of land out there that's wild and natural, we may get, I'm thinking like 75% of the money we need to buy that land from this federal fund. So the money that comes out of Fish and Wildlife funds is like a quarter. That ain't bad. And so we're doing things to help the outdoors and help keeping forests from becoming subdivisions or parking lots. Habitats are improved for birds, fish, deer, all kinds of animals. They all benefit. There are studies done. Research is accomplished. Next thing you know, the wild outdoors is better for the animals and birds and fish that live there. And the next thing you know, hunting and fishing is better. Wildlife photography is better. Wildlife-related recreation is really kicking into gear. And so for everyone like you and me who say, man, we had a great day on the lake today, I can't wait to come back next week. But before I do, I'm going out and buy that new trolling motor. Or I'm going to pick up that new lure. We'll have an even better time next Saturday. And so the cycle starts again. We have a yearn for equipment, and it is produced for us. You go to the store, there it is. Conservation dollars from the manufacturers of your favorite outdoor gear finish what they start. Names you may have heard associated with this type of funding: the Sportfish Restoration, Wildlife Restoration, Dingle Johnson, Pittman Robertson funds. Manufacturing companies pay it initially, but if you're a hunter, if you are an angler, or if you're a boater, or if you know one, this is the group of people who drive the market, and why that hunting or fishing license is suddenly so important to conservation in Kentucky or any state, even if you never use it. It's a system that works, and you don't have to look far around to see evidence of it. It's a big job. I'm glad it's not mine, and I want to shake the hand whoever does this in Washington, D.C., and I have. At the Archery Trade Show, which was held in Louisville at the Expo Center back in January of 2013, the entire south wing, and if you have ever been there, it's huge, like 5-6 football fields. I mean, it's massive. If you've been to the State Fair, imagine that whole south wing not filled with arts and crafts and ribeye steak sandwiches. Think of it filled with archery equipment. And this is not just for the local Dick's Sporting Goods. This is for, basically, for the nation. Every nock, every arrow, every bow rest, every tip you buy adds to this fund that helps conservation. And while I was at the Archery Trade Show, there was a fisheries biologist there with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service who has risen through the ranks and now has the job of managing the Wildlife and Sportfish Restoration Program. I talked with him. Let me play you that tape. His name is Hannibal Bolton.
I'm the Assistant Director for the Wildlife and Sportfish Restoration Program. Okay, so you handle Pittman Robinson and Dingle Johnson money, is that right? That is correct. I oversee those funds as in a partnership fashion with the states and the U.S. territories, including the District of Columbia. That's a lot of money. If you didn't exist, what would conservation be in the United States? How different would it be? An excellent question. I believe, as does the states, conservation for fish and wildlife would not exist in this country to the degree that it is today without these funds and the partnerships that the federal government, Congress of the United States, working with the states and state government. Well, it essentially funds fisheries divisions and wildlife divisions, I don't know 100%, but the programs that they do. Can you name a program or two or three that's consistent around the nation? Yes. Boating is one, boating access. The other one is fish and wildlife conservation. The biologists, the research, the hatcheries, the wildlife management facilities, land that they purchase for conservation and for the American public. And that is just kind of a quick and dirty definition, explanation of some of those projects that gets funded out of that. Research, the conservation, the research protocols that the states are using as the Fish and Wildlife Service. If it wasn't for these funds that's coming from the sportsmen, the hunters, fishers, the shooters, boaters, be really, I think, kind of really sad to see what it would look like, because the people that hunt and fish and boat, they're paying a huge portion of conservation in this country, and thanks to the industry, because they are willingly and knowingly providing those excise taxes that goes into the account, this trust fund, and 100% of it has to remain in control of the state directors.
We've been a little bit vague in that sportsmen and women pay this. How is it that it is paid? Because they pay it, they accept doing this, but they don't really know they're doing it.
Paying for it actually comes when they purchase hunting and fishing equipment, buying hunting license, buying boat and boat registration. So that's kind of how it gets paid. You make a good point. Probably a high number of the hunters, shooters, the public really don't know where the money goes. They know that they see one price, they buy a gun, they buy ammo, they've got what they were after. But the fact of the matter is there's a 10% to 11% of those dollars that's already been paid, and that's going back. It comes back into the account of this trust fund for the Pittman Roberts Dingle Johnson account.
So if I go out and buy a hunting rifle, or I buy an archery kit, bows, arrows, bullets, a dime, 11 cents or so of each dollar I spend on that automatically goes in to your fund, right? And it's just redistributed back out to the states.
That is correct. Each of that, basically what happens, the manufacturer actually already pays it, but so as they continue to sell guns to the public on the retail side, that money goes in, because once they make the gun and sell it, then it goes back into the trust fund, and then that's when the users, if you will, the consumers, are putting money in, and that's how they're paying it. Otherwise, for a while there, that the manufacturer actually may be viewed as kind of sitting and waiting to get paid. But it's fairly rapid.
We are talking about the Wildlife and Sportfish Restoration Program that makes wildlife, hunting, fishing, conservation better in the United States wherever you live. Hannibal Bolton is the guest, and he is the man who runs it all from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. We will be back with more. My name is Charlie Baglin, and this is Kentucky Afield Radio. Back with a few more minutes with Hannibal Bolton, who is in charge of the Wildlife and Sportfish Restoration Program with the United States Fish and Wildlife Service. Listening to a recording that I had made at the Archery Trade Show in Louisville in January 2013. Let's pick up there. You take a look at where we are today, the Archery Trade Association, and this expansive exhibition they have going. Everybody here pays into your fund. Where is the fund today because of just the archery trade?
Actually, when you start to look at the hunting, the wildlife aspect, archery is really, really making a big step. The shooters, just kind of target shooters, the people that actually hunt, is archery growing. The growth of archery is really continuing to expand on an annual basis. I was talking to one of the manufacturers here earlier today, indicating that I believe we have like 23 states that have actually broadened their archery seasons and the type of archery that can be going into hunting. So that's an indication there that it is growing. You can see I was at this event last year, and just on eyesight, it appears to me that it's an increase of vendors here. I think it's more here this week than it was last week. So there's a lot of new and improved hunting equipment that's being presented here this week. That's fun. Will be increased money that will go into the trust fund that actually goes back out to the state to do conservation and kind of make sure that there's healthy populations and lands available for the hunter, and all those monies come back and they go to the states to do that.
You have to be a person who travels a lot. I know that the Archery Trade Association is just one of your stops. Where else do you visit that would rival this type of event?
Well, the next one that's coming up in a couple of weeks would be the SHOT Show, and that's where the ammunition and the guns people will be, and that'll be in Las Vegas. In terms of travel, I do the SHOT Show, I do the Archery Trade Association, I do the Archery Summit, we do the boating conference that they will have and kind of give presentation, and we're really starting to increase our efforts of informing the American public, and especially the people that's actually paying for the equipment, and letting them understand and know, and being thanking them for what they do. Some of them, I think, most people, they're having a role contributing to conservation, but yet don't know it. But I think it is our responsibility, along with the states, to make sure that the people that hunt and fish and boat understands and have been informed of really what this money is being spent on. So I think it's a good thing. In terms of my travel, I plan to be, I'm on the road about 50% of the time. On a monthly basis, I kind of schedule to go to some meeting with the states, meeting with conferences and conservation, with policy discussion and conversation. So 50% of the time I just schedule automatically, and then being the position that I'm in, then there are things that come up that I didn't have scheduled that takes me away from my office.
I've got to ask, you buy a fishing license or you buy a hunting license, and somehow or another that helps to make states eligible for federal money. Now, I'm sure that the average sportsman, one, either knows that, or two, is curious how that works. So tell me, how does that work?
Okay. I think most of the individuals that buy a hunting and fishing license, it's probably not clear to them where this money goes. If the state sell a hunting license, a fishing license, those dollars have to remain under the control of the conservation director, the state director. Those dollars also are kind of locked up and can only be used by the state, and they use those license fees as the match, because there's a 75-25% match on the federal dollars, so that the states don't have to raise, have appropriated funds that come from the legislature. The states have their hunting and fishing license, they put that in their fund, their trust fund, then that money goes back out to do conservation delivery. So Fish and Wildlife, the federal government puts 75 cents on the table, the state can reach over and put a quarter to make it a full dollar, and that is how the states, how the money is kept safe. The federal funds, there's a federal legislation called the assent language, which requires how the states would receive the money, and the state have to approve, pass assent language at the state level, saying that they comply and they commit to doing this. And if something would happen to, get off track, then the states would lose their funds until such time they pay it back plus interest.
Talking with Hannibal Bolton with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. He's the man in charge of federal excise dollars that help fund state fish and wildlife programs. It's pretty cool. It's a mouthful. Lastly, Kentucky extends beyond the Kentucky Exhibition Center. And I know you spend a lot of your time here for these few days, but do you get out at all and explore the state or states when you travel around, or is it all business?
Well, sometimes I get a chance to get out. On events like this, I don't really get to get out that much. Get out and have dinner, And it's a full-time job when you're having one of these, but from time to time, I'll be out visit one of the states, do some monitoring and look at some of the projects they're working on. And I always feel welcome to the states and they want to show me some of the new projects that they're working on that they're proud of. And I really do appreciate that because I'm a fisheries biologist by training, and so, it's really great to get back out on the water and see the great stuff that the biologists at the state level, field level are still doing that I no longer have that option. So if I can get close to water and have somebody give me just a 5-minute update about the excitement, great thing they're doing, I get a real good rush out of that. I really do enjoy it.
Mr. Bolton, thank you for being on the show with us.
Thank you so much.
The man does good work for Fish and Wildlife all across Kentucky, all across these United States. We are out of time. My name is Charlie Baglin. Come back again in a week. We will go inside outdoors again right here on Kentucky Afield Radio.